Hello, and welcome to Final, the podcast where we explore the game industry through the stories of the developers who shape it. I'm your host, Michael Pasker. Today, I have an amazing guest joining me, Brandon Mays, a ridiculously talented 3D character and weapons artist. He's worked on some incredible projects, and we're going to get into everything from his journey in the industry to his creative process. Brandon, welcome to the show. How's it going?
Good. Thanks for having me.
How are you? Thank you for coming.
I can't complain. Just had a massive Chipotle burrito bowl, and
Nice.
was probably a terrible idea to eat that before this. But
So, like, tell us about yourself. Where do you come from? How did you join the game industry? What drew you to
my
thing?
origin story.
Yeah.
Uh, well, I'm from Austin, Texas, and I've been playing video games since I was, I don't know, 10 or 13,
What's your first
and
console that you remember?
PS2.
PS2. Okay.
Or actually, I think I had a Game Boy Color before that. I it was funny. I was out of all my friends, I was the last kid to be allowed to play video games.
That's
My parents
funny.
were like against it.
I was so bad, my mom would take it away and I would like sneak in and steal it back and use it when they weren't home. I was so
Yep.
bad. So, like, what drew you to like character creation and weapon creation? Are you
Well,
have you always
I
been like artistic and
no.
creative?
Well, I'll be honest, my bigger passion is music. I've spent more
Mm-hmm.
time making music than I have 3D art. Um, but it was around 2013, 2014 I discovered Blender,
Wow.
and the reason I got into it is because if you know the DJ Skrillex,
Mm-hmm.
he had a really cool logo for for his brand Skrillex. It was done in 3D, and I was like, oh, I need to do that for myself. And so I learned Blender just to make a
Oh
stupid
wow. So
3D logo.
you were self-taught a lot of ways.
I did that for a while, yeah, but then I
Mm-hmm.
went to Gnomon. Um,
Oh, sweet. So
but
you
yeah,
had a little portfolio to show them and everything. You prepared
I
stuff.
did, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
That's cool. What like do you have any stories from that time? Like what kind of classes were you taking? What were the cooler like what classes drew you in more? Cuz I remember taking classes and some were I couldn't even handle it.
Yeah. Well, when I went to Gnomon, I was still thinking I would go into film because the studio
Mm.
that I really wanted to go into was Blur. Um, it wasn't until after my experience at Gnomon I realized what direction I wanted to go into. But yeah, I actually did the first degree program at Gnomon. I was in the class that was the first time Gnomon was offering a Bachelor's of Arts degree.
Oh, that's cool.
So I had to do, I mean, probably I had to do a lot of, the stupid science, physics, and
Mhm.
math classes. But
That's so funny. That's kind of like when I left.
yeah,
Do you remember the year? Like
the year
2000? Yeah.
that I went,
Uh-huh.
I went from 2017 to
Okay.
2019,
Okay.
2020.
That's funny. Yeah, I
There's
remember
no way you were
they
there while I was there.
maybe because they were trying to get accreditation. I was working at the
Okay,
workshop.
that's crazy if you were
Um,
there when maybe I just
Probably.
arrived and you were there.
And I remember they had to do a lot of accreditation things for the website. There's a lot of
Yeah.
bureaucracy that goes with it, and it was like when they finally were able to offer, it was really great. You know, I was actually
Well,
the last guy on their part-time degree because like I was working there and I was like I still want to take classes and get a degree, so they kept me on there until I didn't do it. Like what's the difference between 3D for games and 3D for movies? Because
um,
there's a big shift there.
yeah. Well, for film, it's all being pre-rendered, so they can
Mm-hmm.
just go crazy on the amount of textures they can put into a character and the amount of geo.
So as far as your like portfolio into games,
Well, in school, I was just taking the classes, doing the classes and modeling for the class. And so
mm,
we had a class, I think, that was catered towards assets for film, which are higher res, higher fidelity. And then we had a class, like a game character class, where you're learning the workflow, the baking, retopologizing, texturing for games.
okay, so they
So I
gave
had
you
a
that
mix of
experience.
both of those,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Very cool. And we're looking through your portfolio here, which is really great. So, like, what do you like more, the characters or weapons? Because that's
Um,
also like, in a big game company, that's not like the same person.
no, you're right. I mean, I've totally disregarded any advice that was given to me, which was stick to one thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's honestly been a blessing and a curse because it's me being good at character and weapon modeling has opened some doors, and but it's also closed some doors because an
Hmm.
art director might look at this and be like, well, this guy can't make up his mind if he wants to do characters or weapons.
That's so funny to me.
Um, but to be honest, I think I like both equally. I get the same amount of satisfaction as from making a really dope looking character as I do from
Mm-hmm.
making a dope looking gun.
So after Noman, like, what was your first gig?
My first job was at Gadgetbot, and I started there as a 3D artist, just doing weapon models that were used for concept art for weapons for Apex,
Mm-hmm.
and then also a little bit of Valorant.
Oh, so they were kind of outsourcing house.
Uh, Respawn was outsourcing a lot of weapon concept art, and if you look at my art station there, on the right, there's that LMG looking gun. That's some of the work that I was doing. That was actually the first gun I did at
This guy.
Gadgetbot. Yeah.
Wow. And after Noman, like, how long did it take to get this job?
It was probably about 5 or 6 months.
These are cool. How did this work? They actually gave you, this is an actual 3D weapon or is it 2D?
It's so yeah, they give a concept artist will make a rough 2D concept, and then
Mm-hmm.
I would make it that gets approved by Respawn, and then I would go in and make a very high res 3D model of that concept,
Mm-hmm.
and then I would do these renders, these different angles that
Oh,
you see
wow.
here, and then a concept artist would go in and touch up parts of the model that I couldn't
Oh,
really
wow.
flesh out in 3D. So if you zoom in, you can kind of see
Yeah.
where like the 3D model and the painting overlaps.
Okay, that's cool. That's
But
an interesting. Is that like a more faster way to get a really nice look for somebody?
yeah, I mean the
Mm-hmm.
materials obviously are going to look better if it's 3D rendered,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and a 2D artist can do a good job as well. But that just
Yeah.
saves a lot of time.
Very cool. I love
And then
this.
I'm pretty sure Respawn would even use these models when they went to make the final 3D model because I've
Mm-hmm.
seen how these final assets looked, and it's a one-to-one match to my model.
So they would have your model as a starting
Yeah,
point. That's
yeah,
great. So
yeah. This
that
is what
was
I
your
started
first
out doing.
studio remote, huh? That's interesting. And
Yeah.
then after
I've only
that,
been remote. I've only been
oh
remote.
wow, okay. I'm so old.
I
That's
know.
what I remember. I'm old. This is cool. This is very cool. So Apex Mobile.
So this was
Mm-hmm.
yeah, GadgetBot. They had a lot of connections with Respawn, and then Respawn teamed up with Tencent China to make Apex Mobile. And when they did
Mm.
that, I was their 3D artist at GadgetBot, and they we got GadgetBot got the opportunity to do some character outsourcing. And since I was
Mm-hmm.
the wannabe 3D character artist, they had me do their first asset. Which, if you go back and look at the yellow, that yellow Pathfinder in the top right,
This guy?
that was actually the first
Wow.
3D character asset I did for GadgetBot as an outsourcing studio.
Dude, I
This was
love
like an art
this.
test for the studio,
Oh, I see. That's
and Tencent was happy with this, and so then they gave us a ton more work, and then we ended up uh, at GadgetBot hiring like 4 or 5 more character artists and just started
So
doing
would
this
you say you are responsible for their success? Yes.
for GadgetBot or
Yeah.
uh
You gave him
I
the.
mean, I helped get things off the ground.
Yeah, man, that's
That's for
awesome.
sure.
This thing's cool. I love the you can't really maybe you can. Oh yeah.
I think
I love
GadgetBot even did the
the
concept for this too,
damage
but
in
I'm not
there.
sure. I think GadgetBot even did the concept for this model as well,
Oh
but I'm
wow.
I'm not entirely sure.
I love all the detail in there. It's great. You have any this piece is very cool. It's very Scott
Oh
Robertson.
yeah, this is a Scott Robertson
Oh
sketch that he did on
yeah.
like he had a bunch of little cool vehicle sketches he did
Mhm.
on like business cards. So they were like tiny, simple sketches, and I just
Mhm.
took one and made it.
So cool. I remember that series. He used to post them I think all the time. Very cool. I love the material he got in there.
Oh yeah, this like freck
Wow.
car paint stuff I was so proud
So
of.
cool. No, it's great.
Yeah.
Wow. I remembered at Noman trying to do like shiny guitar fleck paint, whatever,
Yeah.
and it came out, but it was always kind of off. This
Yeah.
looks perfect with the everything. Looks great. And so you like characters better, you said. Look at this.
Yeah.
Have you ever
Yeah.
3D printed any of your pieces? Cause like those printers are cheap now. The resin printers.
Yeah,
What
I
is it?
actually I have one right here. I need to set it up, but
Oh,
haven't
cool.
had time yet.
It's a resin one?
I'm not sure. It's an Ender
Hmm.
3.
Okay. For your weapons, do you like more like what's your inspiration for a weapon? It
Right.
could be anything. Is it more are you I don't know. I don't know what I'm asking. I'm asking is it more like sci-fi or is it more
Yeah.
modern or is it like cuz these right here are like completely opposite. Like this is sci-fi
Right.
and then you have this realistic one. Like what do you prefer?
I prefer the sci-fi non-realistic weapons. Yeah, I prefer the ones that don't make any sense and just
Mhm.
look cool.
Cuz I mean it
Which
mixes
makes me a
the
bad weapon artist. If you scroll down, I
oh
have a video where got this into VR and animated it.
where here?
Yeah, yeah.
Let's see.
Did the sound effects
What?
too.
Oh,
Yeah, I did this on the Quest 1.
very cool. So it's oh wow.
And
See,
the
this is a
needles
new
come out. It's supposed to be
technique.
like a
So
needle.
talk about this. Imagine this is I'm that's awesome. So like I could see this being something where
Like it,
mhm.
but this was not a concept. I did this concept, I think, in 2D, and then modeling and final model is done in ZBrush and Blender. So
Mhm.
this right now you're looking at is the final model. But yeah, there are people like if you go on ArtStation, there's a guy
Mhm.
named Mech Nuggets who does a lot of really cool VR 3D modeling concepting.
Wow.
And I
'Cause-
did that for Dead Drop for the first set of guns that we did, but that's so far back.
yeah.
I don't know
I mean, I think that's a good
what happened
way
to it.
to like enhance your work. You know, you have your
Yeah.
work and then hey, look,
Yeah.
and instead of and cuz modeling for games in a lot of ways, your gun will have to fit kind of the camera or something. You know, it has to
Right.
look right in a certain angle. Like right now, this is great, but like what people really look at the art directors is what it's going to look like in this angle,
In
you
hip
know.
fire view. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
like a lot of the cooler stuff is usually on one side or it's usually I don't know what it is. But can you talk about that? Like what is the
Well,
like
this was a student project. You're right. All those making hip fire view look really good is important, but when I did
mhm.
this, I was just kind of like I needed to
Can
get
let's talk
through with this.
about that. Let's see if I think this one has a good yeah. So like let's talk about like guns for games.
Well, for a gun like this, since it's based on a real world gun, there's not a lot of designing in hipfire view that you have to do,
Mhm.
because it's just this is literally a Glock with a conversion kit on it. And all of these are real world parts.
Mhm.
Um, but if you're making a gun for like, let's say Apex,
Mhm.
and you would take the time to do a concept pass where you're looking at what it looks like in hipfire view.
Mm-hmm.
If you have the budget. I mean, sometimes like it just depends on the size of your studio, but sometimes you don't have the time to make it look cool in hipfire view. All you can do is make it look
Yeah.
cool in side view. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like here we do all these different views.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like, I think for Apex, I think it might have been a month and a half just to do the concept for these. That's not even getting into the 3D model.
Like if anyone was gonna show off a weapon, it's I think this is the most successful type of showing you can do.
Yeah. Yeah, GadgetBot, everyone should go look at GadgetBot's portfolio because they've got just insane
I
weapon
might be able
work
to
and
link
character
them.
work.
I might link them at the bottom.
Yeah.
I'll link. Hey guys, I'm gonna link them at the bottom. So everything we're talking
Show
about,
notes?
I'm gonna link Brandon's ArtStation account, and I'm gonna link everything else. So if you have any
And my crypto
problems,
wallet?
and if you have any problems, tell him personally. uh, you do a lot of outsourcing as well. What are some of the mistakes and common mistakes that you see people doing with weapons?
Um, Honestly, the biggest thing that I see most often is in hard surface modeling, edges being way too sharp. Even in this
Mm.
model, I'm guilty of that in this model.
So as an artist, do you practice art on the side, or do you do anything else that's creative?
I mean, I've got a shit ton of just personal projects that I'm always doing on the side, like an endless amount that never get finished. I think as far as my anatomy, I think that's probably what helps me get better and better
Mm-hmm.
is let's just sculpt like a guy, a bust of a guy like flexing his arms. That's like one of them.
I feel like that's a really good key for for an artist in this industry. Like,
Yeah.
keep doing art outside of work, and keep experimenting, because you never know what you'll have to make and where you'll have to gain inspiration from. You might not even know these things exist. So just keep an eye out for all kinds of things and be open minded to many different cultures, and because you never know where ideas will come from.
Yeah.
And that's what the industry always wants, is something new and something fresh. And if you can, like, even in your portfolio show that, uh, it's a leg up.
Yep. You
If
should
you
always be
ever,
learning.
what is
Yeah, the
what
original
exactly? Yeah.
concept was, if you scroll down, you can
Mm-hmm.
see
This is cool.
this was the original. This was based off the original concept,
Mm-hmm.
and I have a version of this that was
And this was
textured like the original.
ZBrushed. And how did you make this?
Yeah, this is entirely ZBrush.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to get better at hard surface modeling only using ZBrush, and this
Mm-hmm.
was like a test case for that.
Very cool. Wow.
But yeah,
This
I
is
did
cool.
this version, which I just like better because it's like I used to be really obsessed with motocross, and this just kind of reminded me of motocross like
Mm-hmm.
gear and apparel.
Super cool.
But yeah, this is just us practice to get better at hard surface and ZBrush. There's a lot
That's
of
cool.
artists it's crazy to me, but they only do all the hard surface and ZBrush, and I was like,
Wow.
I should maybe try that out.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. And like a lot of these tutorials and videos and everything, back when I started, like when I learned Maya, it was through a book. And then I got sick of looking at the book, and I bought some videos on eBay from Noman.
Wow. Yeah.
And because they were expensive, And on eBay, this guy was selling like a bunch of them, like 20 of them for real cheap. So I bought them and went through and did a car. I forget a couple other things. But that's kind of how I got better and better at Maya. Like, just keep
Yeah.
practicing. And
You're a Blender guy though now, right?
now, I mean, I don't even have Maya anymore. It's changed so much. I don't even know when I stopped using it, because I've jumped around to things that would make things faster for me, as far as like rendering. Because Maya,
Yeah.
you really have to tinker a lot to get a really decent render. But like a lot of my stuff went into Fusion 360, which was super easy because they had like materials and stuff already there and cameras, so it was really easy to mess with it. And then there was Keyshot. You could basically load your model in there, and then the materials can get set up in there, and the camera and the lighting, and it just makes everything look like this, like amazing.
Yeah, I love
um,
Keyshot. I couldn't afford it, but so I use
yeah.
I think Octane and Blender, which is free, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean
Yeah, Keyshot's
now
amazing.
it's like so easily readable to get a really nice render, but back then it was hard.
Yeah.
You really had to sit there and know what you're doing. What do you think like the future of everything is going with AI and everything like that?
Uh, yeah, I think AI is just gonna be a part of everybody's discipline at some
Mm-hmm.
point, and maybe even replace some, merge some.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be some weird hybrid of AI and 3D modeling, probably.
But you're not
I do think
scared.
it's exciting.
I think it's exciting too. I think a lot of people don't have the right concept of what it actually is. It's like a tool in your toolbox. It's not really going to replace you, not yet,
Yeah,
but it's
yeah.
not going to replace you at all because you still have to put these things together. You still have to come up with the idea of it, you know?
AI cannot come up with a compelling story
Yeah,
or a fun game.
yeah. Let's see. This one looks pretty cool.
Yeah, this was for Apex Mobile,
And
which they shut down,
it
but
looked like this in a mobile
yeah,
game.
this was
Wow. I mean, you can
it
tell the
yeah,
amount of polygons you're using. It's pretty
yeah.
low.
This was, to be fair, this is the highest res version of it in the game,
Mm-hmm.
and this is what they used in the lobby. So when you're in the lobby, you see
Oh.
this, but if you're in the game playing, running around, it's a little bit lower res.
And do you have to make those two models, or the engine takes care of all that?
No, we had to, that was the nightmare of this, is that we had to manually make each LOD.
Oh wow, that's crazy. What's one overlooked skill that makes a great 3D artist stand out? I'm here with the hard
Um,
questions.
no, actually, I thought of something. I think understanding lighting and doing
Mm-hmm.
nice renders, I think,
Mm-hmm.
can make a lot of 3D artists' work look a lot better. Like, I think a lot of my work is not really that great, but I feel
I
like the
love your
lighting and
work.
rendering I do makes it look a little bit
Yeah.
better.
I mean,
So,
if you look at it, it's that's what makes some successful movies successful,
yeah.
because the lighting, because the mood they are in. I mean, it all depends.
Yeah, lighting in your renders is something you should
Mm-hmm.
experiment with. And honestly, it can be one of the most fun parts, like just moving lights around to get reflections in a certain area.
Very cool. And this was supposed to be one of the vendors.
Yeah, this was
Very cool.
the rat that we modified to get. I modeled the new head.
It's kind of scary.
Yeah.
I don't want to look at it. All right. So, as a closing thought, do you have anything else to say? What do you have to say for yourself?
What do you have to say? Answer for this.
Answer for this. Just kidding. This is pretty cool too. This reminds me a lot of Bionicles for some
Yeah.
reason. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, this was for Apex, the PC game, and this was a huge deal for GadgetBot because it was the first
Mm-hmm.
3D character asset that Respawn let us do for the PC game. But
Oh
yeah, it was
wow.
a lot
How
of
did it
fun.
do?
It did well. I mean, they gave us more work, so
That's cool.
it well. How much of it did it? How many of these were sold? I have no idea. They
Mm,
didn't give us those numbers.
very cool. So, do you have any last thoughts to tell the audience?
I mean, if anybody who is in school right now listening to this and wants to get into the industry, just be prepared for a lot of pain and misery.
Yeah.
That is the artist's life.
And never let your ego get in front of you.
Yeah. Being able to be highly critical of your own work is very
Hmm.
important. and being able to accept criticism.
Yeah.
Everyone struggles with it, but yeah, you gotta
Yeah.
do it.
That's the main growing pain. But once you pass that, you're good. All right. Well, thank you very much, Brandon. I will talk to you
Thank
again
you.
later. And thank you very much for joining us. This is Final. I'm your host, Michael Pasker. And I hope to see you next time.